Hi, everybody, it's me again. So, today I'm going to talk to you about how my mental illness came about. It started when I was about 19 with the death of my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. I was very, very close to her. She was one of the only people, besides my mother and my father, of course, but she was one of the only people who accepted me for who I am. Nothing that I did in her eyes was bad. I could draw a squiggle and I was Picasso. Um, when I was 19, close to my birthday, so near the end of my 19th year, um, she became sick, and she was the type of woman that took care of everybody but herself. So she became sicker and sicker, and she finally went to the hospital, but it was too late. And what they found in doing exploratory surgery was that she had cancer that had started on her pancreas and attacked everything, her lungs, everything, and it was too late. So we found out on International Women's Day, ironic, isn't it? That she was gonna die. And we buried her on my 20th birthday. And it's funny because after that day, after my 20th birthday, my birthdays were never the same. There was always something going on, something bad, something complicated that would happen on my birthday. So the death of my grandmother marked my first depressive episode. But it wasn't so bad because I still lived with my parents, and I was in a relationship with my high school sweetheart. So the worst that really happened is that I left Cégep, which she would have hated because she always wanted me to go to school. But sorry, Grandma. So that depressive episode went pretty well because I was surrounded by people that I loved and that loved me, and I lived with them. I wasn't on my own yet. The second depressive episode that I had was when I was about 25. I was still with my high school sweetheart, and I think I wasn't very happy with the relationship, but I didn't know how to get out of it because I loved his family so much. They were the family that I had always wanted, even though they were obviously retarded, as most families are. And he was a great guy. Even though I had fallen out of love with him, I still loved him as a person and as a friend. And at that time, I lived alone. So the apartment was disgusting. I wasn't eating very well. I was sleeping at odd hours. I would eat pizza at 3 in the afternoon. I don't know if I was going to work at that time or not. But again, it didn't really go down that badly because I still had my support system. I was really supported by my family and my boyfriend. Um, At 27 years old, I experienced my first manic episode, and boy, was I crazy, like bonkers. Ask any of my friends and my family. I was still going to university, but I decided to leave my 12-year relationship, and so I was single after 12 years. So you can imagine what happened. I was going out at all hours. I had 6 part-time jobs. I was going to university, and I was sleeping right and left and center with any guy that wanted to. I was a slut, real slut. But you can understand. I mean, I had been with the same guy. Give a girl some credit, okay? I had been with a guy for 12 years. He was my first. I had never cheated on him. So, excuse me to be vulgar, but any dick that wanted me, well, I wanted him back. So, at that point, I was living on my own. I was spending money as though I had millions, and I didn't. I was still functional, however, because as I said, I held 6 jobs, and I was able to still get good grades at school. So there you have it. That was my first manic episode. At 28, I met the father of my child. It went pretty quickly, our relationship, because I was pregnant within the first couple months that we knew each other, and he lived with me practically right away. due to circumstances and due to what I thought was love. But then when I became pregnant, it was a combination of being alone at home all the time. And I just realized that you see my electrical panel, which is not really cool, but maybe like this. No. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I'll get a nicer background another time. So I started being depressed when I was pregnant and at home. And I wasn't happy with the relationship either. I had my sort of doubts that he was being faithful to me. If not faithful physically, he was at least emotionally cheating. And girls, we all know what that means. Even though men don't want to recognize it, I can have another vlog on this subject. Emotional versus physical betrayal and cheating. Okay, guys? You can emotionally cheat on your girlfriends. Just head note. When I finally gave birth to my beautiful boy, I had another depressive episode that, like I said, began when I was pregnant and alone at home and unhappy in the relationship. So I gave birth to him, and the psychiatrists and the doctors that I saw kept saying that I was having postpartum depression. But if we go back into the history of being bipolar, you go up and you go down and you go up and you go down. So it was probably not postpartum. It was probably just depression or a depressive episode. I decided that after having had a year of verbal and mental abuse that I kicked out my lovely fiance because we were engaged. He only did it because my mom gave him the ring that I want to be married with. That's another story altogether. I kicked out my fiance because he started verbally abusing my then 2-month-old son, which is sad to say. And what's even sadder to say is that I probably would have stayed with him had it not been for my son, because I would have subjected myself to more verbal and psychological abuse. But when he started in on my son, I said, hell the fuck no. Excuse my language. Oops. I said, you get out. So he did. At 30 years old, I had another manic episode. But it wasn't as... There's my son. You can come, sweetheart, if you want. But you can't talk though right now. I'll tell you when you can talk, okay? Oh, okay, he doesn't want to talk. He'll talk another time. So my manic episode at 30 was less intense because of and thanks to my son. Because I couldn't go out when I wanted. I had him to take care of. I was a single mom. I couldn't go out when I wanted. I couldn't spend the money that I wanted, how I wanted. I couldn't sleep left and right, even though I tried. You know, he did go to sleep sometimes. Sometimes. But this one, this manic episode was more grounded. Again, thanks to my baby. Thank you, Zach. Love you. Me too. We can talk a little bit about my hospitalizations. I'll talk about 2 in particular, because I was hospitalized both at Louis H. and at the Jewish General and at the Pavillon Rosemont. My first hospitalization happened after Zach's birth, when they thought that I did have postpartum depression, because I was hearing him cry when he wasn't, so I was sort of hearing voices. And I was thinking about throwing myself off the balcony or disappearing, because at that point I thought that he would be better off without me, and that was sort of due to the verbal and psychological abuse that I was having with my wonderful ex, the father of my child. The second hospitalization I want to talk to you about was due to my suicide attempt, and yes, I did attempt suicide. Sorry for those of you who did not know. And I can talk about it, and I'll try to laugh about it, because, I don't want to bring anybody down. And I don't think I really wanted to kill myself. I think I just wanted... It was more of a cry of pain, because I really wasn't okay in here. So... And I'm blonde, right? So I took the wrong pills. I took antibiotics. So the only thing that happened was that I got a really bad stomach ache, and they gave me some black charcoal stuff to drink to clear out my system. But they did hospitalize me. And they kept saying that I was anxious, that I was depressed, that nobody said bipolar, ever. And now my last depressive episode, which was perhaps my worst because it followed my suicide attempt. My doctor, in trying to help me, prescribed to me Seroquel. I don't know what it is in English, but it's basically to calm anxiety, to help with psychoses, but it's also a sleep enabler. And boy, did I sleep for a whole friggin' year. 1 year. All I did was sleep, eat, wake up, do the minimum, and I even neglected my child, which is hard for me to talk about, and it could be another subject of a vlog. But I was a zombie. And throughout this year, my man was patient enough to stay with me, even though he did some things that I will not discuss here. Yeah, so that was a hard period in our relationship and in my life. But as of September 4th, I believe, 4th, the beginning of September at least, I kind of woke up and saw the light. Hallelujah! And I began another manic period, which is being controlled now because I am now on lithium, which I didn't mention in my French version. But I went through a manic period where I was doing all kinds of stuff all the time, all over the place. I would start laundry, get some eggs on the stove, and forget the eggs. But now it's being controlled. I'm medicated. I'm seeing a social worker. So things are good. Zach, do you want to add anything? I think it's going to end soon. So thank you for listening. Ciao.